Okay, not what you want to hear, but get prepared to pay more, especially for food. Canada's inflation rate hit a 30-year high today, and experts say grocery prices are increasing at the fastest pace in more than a decade. This, as many grocers are struggling with labor shortages, fueled by Omicron and food shortages because of supply chain issues. A problem only heightened by a recent vaccine mandate on Canadian truck drivers.
So to explain what all of this means for us, Canadian consumers, we welcome to CP24 tonight Gary Sands, Senior VP of Public Policy with the Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers, Michael LeBlanc, Senior Retail Advisor and producer and host of the Voice of Retail podcast, and Brian Borzakowski, business journalist and founder of All Caps Content. Thanks to all of you. Michael, let's start with how did we get here? I mean, explain what led to this 30-year high.
Well, the short answer is COVID. We've been dealing with the COVID era now for going into 3 years, and it puts pressure on every node of the supply chain. So that results in increased costs and costs of transportation and costs of packaging. So these things all come together. I just want to, I want to take the opportunity and just say, in general, Canadians should have no concern about their food availability. This is another chapter in a long book around handling the COVID era. Our industry is savviest grocers in the world, great professionals in supply chain. We handled it in 2020. We handled it in 2021. We'll handle it in 2022, whatever comes our way.
Okay, nothing to be too nervous about, you say. Gary, the sticker shock at the grocery store is real. The prices in some cases are astronomical. I want you to talk to us about the labor shortage and how it's making matters worse.
Well, I want to echo what Michael said. I mean, first of all, we don't want to see a return to panic buying by any means. That kind of approach just helps no one and hurts everyone. But that being said, we're seeing Omicron is just ripping through the entire food supply chain, right? Producers, processors, distributors, wholesalers, right up to the retail. And the retailers, our members, are reporting 25 to 30% shortages right now. That makes things very difficult. So when you take all the things that are happening right now that are challenging the supply chain, there's no doubt that I have to disagree a little bit with Michael. We already are seeing some product shortages. We expect to see more of those. We're seeing delays in transportation. And all of this is going to translate into higher food prices. Our members have already reported they are starting to receive goods with increases of 30 to 40%. That's significant. And just to emphasize, a retail grocer cannot absorb those kind of increases. They have to pass those on to the consumer. It's just not sustainable as a business model to not do so. So I guess the thing I would just emphasize to viewers is no, don't panic, but let's not understate the seriousness of the issues we're going to be facing in the next couple of weeks as we hit this peak of Omicron. Okay. We're going to see shortages and we're going to see price increases.
That's interesting. You say you are beginning to see some product shortages. Where are you seeing that? And help the average person understand why that's happening beyond Omicron.
Well, aside from Omicron, one of the other issues that's sort of compounding the difficulties we're facing right now is just last weekend, the federal government implemented a vaccination mandate for truckers. We don't oppose that policy, but we do have concerns about the timing of the policy. We would have liked to have seen that pushed back a couple of weeks until we can ride out this particular wave of COVID. And as the Minister of Health said earlier today, we hope that that peak will be reached soon in this month, and we'll start to come out of that. But we've already started to see product delays because of the trucking shortage. And the vaccination requirement is just compounding that. So fresh fruit and vegetables, for example, coming out of California or Florida, that's going to be a challenge, and you're going to see price increases in those areas. And there's other products that we're already hearing from our members. They're having difficulty getting soups, cereals, those kind of things. So it's not like we're going to see bare shelves and people can't get food, not by any stretch of the imagination. But again, don't expect to see the same quantities for everything in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So, Brian, prices seem to be going up, choices going down. Explain what we can expect to see in the next couple of months when we're shopping.
Yeah, well, I think, we're talking about higher prices. Will that continue? Inflation overall, a lot of the banks, Scotiabank has said it could be, we could see interest rates increase by several percent, up to 2%. It's now 0.25% kind of over the next year, which could increase costs for consumers, borrowing costs. At the same time, it just gets more expensive to go to the store to shop. And that's the big thing, I think, on the personal finances. Yes, you may still see things in stores if they're more expensive. If that piece of meat is 12% higher, if the vegetables are, your apples are up about 6.7%, you're going to have to pay that. A lot of people are on fixed incomes, retirees are on fixed incomes, and they might notice that in their budget. So they may have to rebudget, look at what they're spending. And I think that's the big issue for consumers, is just how are you going to afford rising prices if it's sustainable? Like if it's for a while, some places think it could be for the rest of the year. If it's temporary, sure, we can get over that hump. If it's for longer, that's where you can kind of feel in the pocketbook.
So talk about whether you expect this to impact us for several months or a year. What are we looking at here? A lot of these problems seem to be temporary, but what is the forecast for the year ahead?
Yeah, well, it's hard to know, because Bank of Canada just, before the end of the year was saying this was transitory. It was only temporary. It's going to go away, but it's not going away right now. We haven't seen it decline. All of the Bank of Canada's inflation indicators are up, and that could last. Really, we have supply chain backups. With Omicron, you never know what's going to happen. Variants come up and down. So it's very difficult to predict the future. Banks think that this could last for a while. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business thinks that this could, be about 3% increase over the year. Other places are saying 5% inflation could rise. It's going to be probably longer lasting than people thought. I don't think we're looking at, 5 years of inflation here. Hopefully it'll just be a few months, if not the year. But it's hard to predict. We've never really been in this situation before.
Michael, I think it's important to note here that there are financial implications, but there are also health-related implications. A lot of people are trying to eat better, and we know eating healthy costs more. That choice between easy and healthy, is that going to become more difficult now?
Yeah, is it going to be harder to eat healthier and find choices? It could be. As long as the shelves are still stocked, people will be able to buy what they want. But again, if it hits in the pocketbook and people can't afford some of those things, they may have to adjust what they're eating. I think it may not get that far. But again, the longer this goes, the harder it could get.
So, Gary, what's your message to people who shop at independent grocers? We know that they're going to be hardest hit by some of the supply chain issues and, of course, absenteeism. What could we see helpful with that?
Well, first of all, yes, I hope everybody does shop at the independent grocers. Just to restate the importance of independent grocers to the supply chain is simply that we're in a myriad of communities in this province, in this country, where there is no chain. We're the only grocery store in the community. So when we have problems, the community has problems. The biggest thing I would say in terms of our messaging or our ask to governments is that we need to prioritize the access to the rapid testing kits for retail groceries. We need to be able to prioritize and get them into our hands. That's not a magic wand, be-all, end-all solution, but it's a critical tool that our members could use right now in helping to manage this issue, as opposed to the issue managing us. So we're working with governments. We hope to see an improvement in how we prioritize and get those kits into our hands. But that, over the next few weeks, would help us manage this issue immensely.
And it is a big issue. Michael, I think you can hear us now. We've got about 30 seconds left here. A lot of people are dreading heading to the grocery store. Let's talk about personal finances here. Is it the time to start reviewing our budgets?
Well, I think it's the time to start reviewing. At the beginning of the year, it's a good time to do that. You can make many choices in the grocery store. You may have to make a few more choices, substitutions. That's one implication. As Gary said at the beginning, there's food on the shelves. Sometimes there are shortages of particular food. Maybe you're choosing fresh frozen instead of fresh. And I'd ask your viewers, pack their patience as well when they go to the store. That these are interesting times, they're difficult times, but we will get through it as we have over the past couple of years, and everything will be, this like our epic snowstorm, everything will pass.
Okay, we'll leave it there. An optimistic way to end this segment. Brian, Gary, and Michael, thanks to all of you for joining us. We appreciate your time and your insight.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.